Good morning again to everyone. It is a wonderful morning because I'm seeing all of your beautiful faces and hoping that we will have more to join us. Today is our 13th annual Day of Healing, and we are honored, privileged, and feel very blessed to have the panelists, the distinguished panelists that we have to share with you today. Before we get started, I would like to just share the slide that's on your screen so that you can see all of the people that we have that are with us today. The first screen that you saw had, and I moved down and my mouse doesn't always go up the way it should. We have Dr. David A. Hodge from Tuskegee University, and I'll go further into his title. We have Christopher Koller from Milbank Memorial Fund, and Praticia Mathews-Juarez from Meharry Medical College. And we also have Hilary Jorgenson from the National Institute of Health, and Hilary Polk from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And we have Helene from the Centers for Disease Control Foundation, and Dwight who's with the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. We have 2 sessions, and I will move to those sessions and go through our program. Our theme is Partners in Healing, and moving forward from shame and trauma to honor and triumph together. We will have a healing prayer by Reverend Roosevelt Baum once he come on. And if not, I would like to ask my devoted and most cooperative chair of the scholarship committee, Bishop Deidre Parker Jackson, if she would lead it. Then we have, and Dr. David Hodge is the interim director and associate professor and lead ethicist at the university, at Tuskegee University National Center for Bioethics in Healthcare and Research. Mr. Christopher Koller is from the Milbank president of Milbank Memorial Fund. Dr. Praticia Mathews-Juarez is Senior Vice President, Office of Strategic Initiatives and Innovations, Office of President, Professor, the Office of the President, and Professor of Department of Family in the Department of Family and Community Medicine at Meharry University. Then in the section, which will start at 10, it might start a little later because we're not quite on time. We'll see how it flows. We will have Hilary Jorgenson from the National Institute of National Institute of Health, and she is the National Institute Associate Director for Science Policy, and Mrs. Hilary Polk Wright, who is U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Mrs. Helene Erenberg, who's the Associate Vice President for Advancement at CDC Foundation, and Mr. Dwight Bonds, Executive Director, California Association of African Americans Superintendents and Administrators. And then we will again have the benediction from Reverend Bonds. Instrumental, we will have a 10-minute break, and instrumental music will be played during that time. Reverend Baums, are you on? Not quite. Bishop Jackson, are you there?
Reverend Baums is on. He's muted.
Okay. Reverend Baums, can you unmute so that you can give the healing prayer, please?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good, glad to have you.
Thank
Would
you.
you
Glad to
now
be
give
here.
us, please, the healing prayer so we can move forward?
Thank you. Let us be in prayer. May God supply all our needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:19. Heavenly Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus of Nazareth, reach out your hand and touch the senders of voices of our Father and all our friends and associates. Take away the sickness and diseases that may make them whole. Fill this Zoom room with your forgiveness and healing presence. And Lord, may our families and friends receive a miracle for their souls, their mind, and their body. Oh, living God, I ask you to heal them everywhere they hurt right now. In the name of Jesus, I pray and I believe. In Jesus' name, let us all say amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you so very much. And now my welcome with so much energy and enthusiasm. Happy Monday to everyone. This is the day that the Lord has made. So let us rejoice and be glad. Thank you all for joining Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation 13th Annual Day of Healing. This is my esteemed honor to welcome you to our Extraordinary Partners in Healing program. Theme for today's program is Moving Forward, Transforming the Legacy from Shame and Trauma to Honor and Triumph Together. Several decades after the United States Park Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male at Tuskegee and Macon County, Alabama, descendants were profoundly still struggling and suffering from anger, shame, trauma from this immoral and unethical study. The Day of Healing for Descendants began in 2012, organized and sponsored by Dr. Reuben Warren, former director of the National Center for Bioethics and Research Healthcare at Tuskegee University. Reverend Edward P. Wimberly, the ninth president and former professor at the International Theological Center, began moderating our healing sessions as our spiritual and education counselor and friend. Later, he was joined by his amazing wife, Anne E. Wimberly, former professor of the International Theological Center. Their healing sessions were insightful, compassionate, inspiring, and yes, uplifting. This Day of Healing has been held since 2012 for descendants. COVID-19 could not interrupt our Day of Healing, thanks to the accessibility of technology and Zoom. And I would like to add, and Mr. Ashante Ali Davis, who was our technician. We invited members from Henrietta Lacks, Black Wall Street, Africa Town, to share their harm and healing paths in 2023, in 2022. And in 2023, we invited Tuskegee and Macon County spiritual leaders to share how this study impacted the Macon County and Tuskegee communities. And today we have our partners. We are honored and privileged to welcome our partners in healing. For the past year, the foundation has been embracing collaborative partnerships. Our partnerships and relationships will emerge to demonstrate trustworthiness and build trust in the system responsible for healthcare, public health, and biomedical research. Ultimately, our partnerships will lead to health equity for everyone, and regardless of the race, moderator, or Ms. Joyce Tyson Christian, my younger sister. Enjoy and be inspired. Joyce, now I'd like our dynamic moderator today. She is a phenomenal little sister, filled with energy and always willing to answer her president's call. Thank you, Joyce. Joyce is a retired nurse, Air Force veteran, and she's the proud wife of Will Christian, the mother of 2 adult children, Monica and Will D. III, and grandmother of 2 young grandchildren, Anara and Will IV. She's very active in her churches. And when I say churches, I do mean churches, because she resides in both Gulfport, Mississippi, as well as Somerville, Tennessee, helping out with the grandkids. She's a devoted sister and a very loyal friend. She enjoys reading and traveling. And by the way, she is an excellent cook. Joyce, take it away.
Thank you, my sister Lillie, for those beautiful words of grace. And let me see if I can put this on full. Okay, for those beautiful words of grace. And I'm humble. I'm very humble at those words, because I feel the same way about you. We have a special bond. We're sisters and we love each other dearly. And you know, I will jump through hoops for you if I could. And I do sometimes. But good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It is so great to see your bright, shining faces this morning on the Zoom meeting, where we will discuss our 13th annual Day of Healing with our partners. And I just wanted to say good morning, descendants, supporters, guests, and a very special welcome to our partners that we have this morning and this afternoon. Well, I guess it'll be afternoon for some that will be speaking. As we have grown over the past 3 years, Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation has made great strides in partnerships as we look to the future. This morning, you will get to meet our partners and hear what and how their vision will enhance in mapping a partnership with Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation as we go forward. Now, I just have a little icebreaker. 2 goldfish are in a tank. One looks at the other and says, "You know who's driving this tank?" So, yes, we know who's driving this tank. It's the Holy Spirit that's guiding this tank. And he is guiding us so fervently that Lily's head is just spinning, and so is mine. So I say to you this morning. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. That's what Jesus said when he met the disciples in the upper room after he rose. He said, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. And we cannot be afraid ourselves because we're entering into something new and beautiful. For I see great things coming from from the partnerships that we have so far. And all of this is coming to fruition as God has planned and as the Holy Spirit has guided us to come to this point. We are excited to share with our descendants and supporters of how your visions of partnership with Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation will facilitate changing the narrative from shame and trauma to honor and triumph. The definition of a partnership is an arrangement between two or more people to oversee business operations and to share its profits and liabilities. For a good, healthy relationship in a partnership, this involves honesty based on trustworthiness, which leads to trust, respect, and open communication. As partners, we pledge to respect each other's individuality, alignment of goals, and collaborative efforts in communication, and also flexibility and adaptability. Each one of our partners bring distinct value to the table, and we welcome you into the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation family as we work hard together to foster education, social justice, and health equities in our communities. In order for us to overcome and make our fathers' voices heard, working together with partners like each of you, we can make a difference in someone's life. And hopefully that person will make a difference in someone else's life. One person can make a difference. You are and have made a commitment as partners to start the ball rolling. We thank you for stepping up to the plate to make that difference happen. President Barack Obama said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek. And we thank you for being that change and helping us to go forward in our mission to let our voices for our fathers be heard throughout the world and throughout this nation. So with that being said, I would like to welcome Dr. David Hodge, who my sister introduced as the interim director and professor and lead ethicist at Tuskegee University, National Bioethics of Research in Healthcare. Dr. Hodge, would you give us a little greeting and then go into your partnership? I probably need to just mention that we gave the panelists some questions. They're expound on these questions, but probably add something else to it. And that is, what role will you play as a partner to Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation? How will our partnership impact change in fostering trustworthiness and trust, health equity, and social justice? And the first one was to tell us a little bit about your organization and agency or institution. And with that, also tell us a little bit about yourself, because we didn't do a bio on each one of you. So toot your own horn to let us know what you're doing in the field. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Sister Joyce. Thank you so much, Sister Lillie. Thank you so much for everyone on the screen. So glad to see everybody. I'm especially glad to see my big brother, Dr. Reuben Warren. Just look at him. Every time I speak, I have to celebrate him because he was the vessel that God used to shift the route I was taking. I was a professor for 20 years at Florida Memorial University in religion and philosophy, and And so the Holy Spirit told me go and get a PhD in philosophy, majoring in ethics. I said, why? He said, that's none of your business. Just go in and do what I tell you. So I struggle, I work hard to get that PhD in philosophy and ethics. I down there died, tossed my books across the room, used a few choice words, Sister Lillie. I was upset. But anyway, when it was all over, exactly as I finished, I retired from Florida Memorial, moved to Atlanta, saying I'm not going to work for 2 years. I'm just going to work with my pop, Dr. Riggins Earl, and so on. And then he and Dr. Reuben Warren were behind the scenes conspiring to bring me to Tuskegee University. So they invited me down to just this same conversation, PHEI 2017. They brought me in, and you won't believe what this folk did. 2018, actually. What they did was they put me in the Kellogg in the room overlooking President Booker T. Washington's grave, his monument. And so I woke up early in the morning to meditate and pray. And I saw, when I looked out the window, there was this mist over the, looked like Transylvania, you know, where Dracula came from. Just this mist, this fog over the land. It was so beautiful and spiritual. And I saw something in the, right outside my window on the second floor there. I saw something in the distance. So wait a minute. Then I looked down, and you know what these folk did? They put, Sister Joyce, they put a brochure of Tuskegee with Dr. Washington's tombstone on it. So I looked down and said, wait a minute. I looked up again. I said, that's it. They're trying to hoodwink and bamboozle me. And after I spoke that day, Dr. Warren said, he said, we need you at Tuskegee. And so here I am. Now, so I want to say thank you for the invitation, Sister Lillie, Sister Joyce. But I want to say thank you for the invitation, Dr. Reuben Warren, to work in partnership and alongside with you. A lot of what I'm going to say this morning, how much time do I have? Because you have to put a time limit on me. What much time do I have?
8 to 10 minutes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna put it all in there in 10 minutes because I got to when I start talking. See, Dr. Reuben Warren spoiled me. Listen, we will be in the National Center until literally, I'm no joke, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, like we have no families. Working on something, some paper, some presentation, something. Got on plane, flight to Rome, got on plane, flight to South Africa, talking about clinical trials, talking about trustworthiness before trust. How do you develop that mechanism? How do you make that work? And all the while, and sometimes we throwing blows because we're brothers, throwing blows and developing and so on and so forth. One night, we before I get back to that one night, I need to say something. I'm from the Virgin Islands. Obviously, you can hear it. I had a different picture in my background, but for some reason, I appear to be very dark on screen. I don't understand why. Everybody else look very Caucasian. I look very African. I don't know why the case there. But nevertheless, I look very dark on screen. But my father is my complexion, how I look on the screen, right? He's the color of a car tire. So I said, this is pretty decent. I like this. So there's a story. So in St. Thomas, there's these frogs. These frogs are having a competition. They're supposed to climb up a side of a cistern. You know the cistern is. A cistern is that big concrete tank that you make because of the islands. We have to get water from somewhere. So we get rainwater. And it comes into a cistern. So these frogs are having a race to get to the top. And on the bottom, there's a bunch of folk telling the frogs, you can't make it because the top, there's too high, there's too high a lift. You can't make it that high. So people are telling these frogs they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. And then frogs, as the more they said you're not going to make it, these frogs just started falling down and falling off. And then, but there's one little frog just kept going, and actually made it to the top. And they said, "Well, what's wrong with that frog? We told him he's not going to make it." They said, "Well, that frog is Lillie. She's deaf. She can't hear your naysaying. All she knows is the vision in front of her, and that's who Sister Lillie is. She is like that little frog. Nobody can tell her that she can't do it. I mean, you're talking about partnership and what is coming together. Everyone on the screen, including my dear brother Lachlan Furrow. I don't know why he's on camera, like he doesn't want us to see his face, but that's part of the partnership. Dr. Reuben Warren, Dr. Robert Trug at Harvard University, Dr. Lachlan Furrow, Dr. Rebecca Brendel Weintraub, Miss Christine Mitchell, and we forged this relationship with Harvard University, a medical school, and the Bioethics Center there, so that we could, as partners, build something and connect to people who have access to stuff, access to power, and that's what we've been thriving to do. So, Sister Lillie, I want to tell you to be like that frog. Do not stop going. Just keep going. All right, now as to why I'm here. So Dr. Warren, what Dr. Warren did, he's very shrewd. He is very strategic. What he did was he met with me on the campus of Interdenominational Theological Center for about almost a year, actually, before I came to the National Center. And he and Dr. Regenshaw, we would talk. We'll talk about health equity, health, the difference between health and healthcare, social determinants of health, political determinants of health, moral determinants of health. I hope I'm not talking too fast, but I'm trying to get it all in this little time. And then we start talking about trust and trustworthiness. And trust, as the trust, as he said, Doc, how do you define trust? I said, well, trust requires vulnerability. There's no way to trust without making yourself vulnerable. And anyone who could become vulnerable, as we saw with the 625 men and their descendants in the syphilis study, the moment you trust, you make yourself vulnerable. You make yourself susceptible, not gullible, but gullible could be brought in if there's a particular kind of nefarious happening, right? So trust means that you're opening yourself up. And so he said, well, what is trustworthiness then? I said, well, trustworthiness is a moral component. Trust is not moral. Trustworthiness is moral. You get that? Trust is almost biological because a baby has to trust that his mother's nipple is going to produce food, right? And it's not a moral question. It's just a natural question, the thing that you got to trust. You got to trust that the air that you breathe is not going to kill you, right? So trust is a natural part, a natural course of life. But trustworthiness requires values and virtue. It requires that you take the time out to be a good person. Where did Dr. Warren go? Okay, I'm trying to look at him as I speak. And so that's what trustworthiness. So he said, David, he called me Doc. Doc, he said, I want you to come to the center. And there's something I want you to do. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, number one, I want you to identify the ethical problematics with the so-called syphilis study. Not a Tuskegee experiment, but the United States Public Health Service syphilis study at Tuskegee. I want you to identify the ethical problematic. I said, well, that one is easy because right off the top, if you say Tuskegee experiment, you're scapegoating Tuskegee rather than the United States Public Health Service. So I got that. So number two, I want you to create an ethical framework for how we are going to do this. And I'll get to that in a second. And number three, he said, I want you to magnify trust and trustworthiness, particularly trustworthiness in everything that we do. So therefore, Dr. Warren and some of his colleagues did the research, got his wonderful grant and did a research on clinical trials. And that's published. And by the way, you can get it on our website. And it's also published in our journal. You can also get it, by the way, with PubMed. Okay. So Dr. Warren had written this grant. He said, well, he gave it to me, said, here's what I'd like for you to do. Show your trustworthiness and make this clinical trials a trustworthy document. And it took a few months to do it because we had to strip it down and massage ethical values and virtues to it until when it was finished, it was a marvelous document. And like I said, you could take a look. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat box when I'm done here, so everyone can take a look at it. Very good. So how much time do I have left, Sister Joyce? You wouldn't have been paying attention. She wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I was too. You have about 3 more minutes.
Okay, I worked that. So
Okay.
now, so Dr. Warren is now what makes a relationship unique is that Dr. Warren is right now in I think his 52nd or 53rd year as a public health guru. Now he will never tell you that he got his doctor of public health from Harvard. He doesn't ever say. He said he got it from Boston. He will never tell you that he got his master's in public health from Boston. He will talk about his work at Meharry because he may have been my dentist when I was in college because Meharry had a free program that Dr. Warren was part of those who constructed for students to come and get dental care. Powerful thing, nevertheless. So he is a public health specialist. Now, I came in as a bioethical specialist. So now we had to come together and figure out how is public health and bioethics going to work? Because here's the key. Here's where the men are so important. Listen carefully. If there were no 625 men and their families, we wouldn't be in this conversation today. So there is a thing called utilitarianism. That is the greatest good for the greatest number of people. But the problem with utilitarianism as an ethical theory, or consequentialism as an ethical theory, dealing with the consequences or that which comes out of an act, the problem with it is sacrifice. In other words, someone has to be sacrificed. The minority has to be sacrificed so that the majority of the most people could flourish. But the problem with that in America is that's what made for the syphilis study to begin with. It required the sacrifice of the few, the least, the lost, the left out. And that's a problem. So public health is constructed upon a kind of utilitarian doctrine. And so I said, Dr. Wong, we can't take that route because that's pulling us into the hands of those who have done wrong. However, we can think about utilitarianism in terms of worldwide, because worldwide, the masses of the people on the planet are people of color. And therefore, just like capitalism is constructed upon the belief that somebody must be at the bottom, there must be a huge base of poverty, or some people on the bottom doing the hard work. Utilitarianism would encourage that, and that could be a problem. So we have to have ethics to that. So what I said to Dr. Ron was, Dr. Ron, as a virtue ethicist, what I can help do is massage the ethics and make it such that people will never forget about the men and their families by doing this one thing. Let's use empathy and care ethics. It's something that was born out of the feminist movement. What is that? That is where all humans even animals, can feel empathy for the 625 and their families who have passed on. We can still be empathic, and we can still care for and care about. So I close with these words. So now we're not dealing with sacrificing the men. We're dealing with promoting the men. We're not just promoting them, but promoting what came as a result, like the Belmont Report. And we're shifting the Belmont Report with what we are calling, starting tomorrow, for those of you who are registered to be in the public health ethics part of the commemoration, we're dealing with the Tuskegee Report, because the Belmont Report fails to construct ideas around what it means to be Black, brown, and poor. And therefore, we're going to be dealing with the Tuskegee Report. Number two, we are very interested in AI. All in 1 minute, I'm done. I'm closing it out. All in AI. AI is a functional part of our education and our health and healthcare. AI is used all over the place, but who governs it? Who puts in the information? Because you remember when you did computers years ago, it said garbage in, garbage out? When you put into the system your garbage or your implicit bias. So if you want to understand how Black health is all about, and you put in your ideas, say you're white or Asian or non-Black person, then your ideas and your interpretation of what Black health is going to be those dynamics that you put in place. And the problem with that is garbage out, because it doesn't necessarily reflect the truth and facts about what it is for Black health. Assalamu alaikum, peace, shalom, blessings upon you. I'm done. Look, Lachlan is on the screen. Good to see you, Lachlan. So I'm done.
Well, you talked him out. Anyways, thank you so much, Dr. Hodge. That was just absolutely wonderful. And it gave us a great basis. And thank you, Dr. Warren, who's over there, the instigator, staying up late at night and doing all those prayers for Dr. Hodge to be your successor, interim successor right now. So hopefully we'll be getting the job permanently. So
Amen. Bless you. Bless you.
Okay, so now we will ask for Chris Koller to come on and give a little bit of background about himself, and then go into those questions that I had previously addressed. Thank you, Chris, for being here and always being a supporter. I mean, he is our, I guess, the second partner after the Tuskegee University and Dr. Warren. He is the second partner. So go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Joyce. How's my sound? Can folks hear me?
Yes, very good. Very
good. Okay. Well, on behalf of the folks at the Milbank Memorial Fund, thanks for the chance to speak and for the chance to take part in this ceremony. I won't try to replicate Dr. Hodge's enthusiasm, but we'll do my best here. And we're going to follow the questions that Joyce and Lillie gave us. The Milbank Memorial Fund is a health policy foundation based in New York City. We work to improve population health and health equity by working mostly with leaders and decision makers. But the relevance for this day for folks who may not be familiar with it is that from 1934 until its conclusion in 1972, the fund was a participant and a funder in the U.S. Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in Tuskegee and Macon County. When we were asked by the Public Health Service to participate to help fund burial fees for men who died in the course of the study, and we did. We had many opportunities to remove ourselves from the study, and we did not. We were along for the ride. When the study was ended, we continued on with our work and had chances to acknowledge our role. But it wasn't until 2021 that we faced up to our legacy, and then led by our board, we confronted what we had done. And then, as folks might be familiar, we formally contacted Voices. We formally apologized, and made a commitment to partnership going forward, and this is part of that. And then we're very blessed to have Voices accept our apology, and that, I won't say that culminated, but that marked in a really memorable apology ceremony at Tuskegee University that everyone from Milbank who participated in it will not forget that day and how it's inspired us going forward. To sort of tie back to what Dr. Hodge said, I think the important thing as we think about this day and this the harms and healing and the voyage from shame to triumph is to think about we hear language all the time about structural dynamics and systemic dynamics. And I think what the process of confronting what we had participated in and apologizing for it allowed folks associated with Milbank to think of ourselves not only as participants in the study, but as participants in the structural factors, the systemic factors that perpetuate the inequity that Dr. Hodge was talking about. There's an informal phrase that I heard the former governor of Texas use in reference to a former president who said he was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. And there are a lot of folks associated with the Milbank Memorial Fund who don't realize the advantages that we've been given, and don't think of themselves as racist or perpetuators of inequality, but really are, just by virtue of the positions that they assume. And so I think, what the real tragedy of the decision that Milbank made and that we continued to make, and I'm part of that, was that we didn't acknowledge our connection to a broader world and to folks in different settings. And that's what I think that lack of connection allows us to participate in systems that make things unequal. And the real grace, the blessing of this partnership has been I think I speak for folks within Milbank, is to feel connected to something bigger than us and to make that journey from harm to healing that the folks who participate in Voices know so well. So that's a bit about the organization. What role will we play as partners to Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation? Well, I went to Catholic school. I got educated by Jesuit priests, and they say, no time give any more than 3 answers to a question. So I'm going to go with 3 things for these parts. The first role that I think we can play and that we continue to play is that we tell the story of harms and healing. I've been privileged to participate with Lillie in a number of settings where we can just relate the harm, make people understand the harms associated with the study of untreated syphilis, the way that harm was caused, and to give people a sense of hope that healing is possible. And I'm always struck by how people react to this story. When Lillie makes people realize the humanity of the men in the study, the evils that were perpetrated, but how that doesn't have to be the end of it. I think the second role that we play is to raise the profile of voices and help it think about its future. We're going to hear from folks from the CDC Foundation, and I'm really proud that Milbank has helped Voices spread its story and bring its story to the attention of more folks. And the scholarship for descendants that the CDC Foundation is helping to form or build on, Voices had started, is a great example of how that story spreads and how people gravitate towards it. And also help Voices think about what its future is going to be and how it can, the legacy can last for the next generation as well. And then finally, I think the role that Milbank can play in a partnership is simply, it's very simple, but we are really committed to showing up. I'm proud that at this ceremony today, it's not just myself, but it's members of our team and of our board. And I think sometimes we make things overly complicated. Someone says 99% of success is showing up. And I think we are committed to showing up for and with Voices as part of that partnership in public settings and in meetings like this. Last question we are given is how will our partnership impact change in fostering trustworthiness and trust, health, equity, and social justice? Again, I want to give 3 examples. The first is that you have changed us. We have changed our mission. We have changed our governance. We have changed, meaning our board. We have changed our programming as a result of our partnership with you. We appreciate that. We thank you for that. And hopefully other people see that change. I want to talk specifically about changes in our programming. We approach the way that we work with state health policy, state health folks in a different way. We lead with an emphasis on what does it take to improve health equity. We want leaders who are skilled with that. And we're very public about what that means, so that the role of leaders to implement policies that improve equity. And I want to give an example of that. Last week, Lillie and I were in Durham, North Carolina, speaking to the Social and Mission Alliance, a set of clinician educating institutions. And the plenary speaker was the Assistant Secretary for Health Equity in North Carolina, Deborah Farrington, who spoke to how North Carolina government is implementing policies to address health disparities. Deborah is a longtime participant in and leader in Milbank Memorial Fund programming. We would not have found Deborah. We would not have been privileged to be able to work with her and help her do her job better if not for the commitments that we made from our partnership with Voices. So thank you for that. And then finally, and I'm going to embarrass some people, but I checked, and Joyce, I can share the screen here. So I want to share with you folks something. And Bob, my apologies, but this is one of my favorite pictures of all time. This is Lillie and Bob at our apology ceremony, the meeting of the board members last in June of 2022. And Bob's grandmother, I believe it was, actually donated money for a hall at Tuskegee. So you will see Milbank Hall, made possible by Elizabeth Milbank Anderson. But that also means that Bob, and by extension all of Milbank, is part of the structures that made the study of untreated syphilis possible. And this is our apology. This is our journey from harm to healing made manifest in a very tender moment with Bob and Lillie at our breakfast. And my hope, maybe I won't send this picture everywhere, but is that this journey, Lillie says, you don't move past things, the harms, you move through them. That's a journey that we're taking too. And I hope that Voices Milbank can be an example, an inspiration for all of us to make that journey in the hopes of creating a better world as we're called to do. So, Bob, thank you for that example. Lillie and Joyce, thank you for the chance to speak and to be part of the journey going forward.
Thank you, Chris. That was really touching from the very beginning to the end. It was so heartfelt and warm. You were right on time. Very good. Very good. Very good. So as we continue, we have Dr. Praticia Mathews-Juarez from the Meharry Medical Center. As Lillie introduced her, as the Office of President. Let me make sure that I get her title right here. Office of President, Meharry College, and Professor of Department, no, it's something about the initiatives and so forth. I don't have a chart on here. But anyways.
Joyce?
Yes.
Would you like for me to give it?
Yes, please, because I got these papers here and I thought I had the right one. But give the proper title,
yeah,
please.
but what I have to go back to my screen to do it. So we will allow Dr. Juarez to enlighten all of us as to how we done it. I have it on another program, Dr. Juarez, and not right in front of me. So I'm not gonna blow it. So it's all on you because you're doing such a fantastic job there at Meharry and doing so much. So we will give you that opportunity to share it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have it now. I have it. I have it. I have it. Okay. We're going to have Dr. Praticia Mathews-Juarez, Senior Vice President, Office of Strategic Initiatives and Innovations, Office of the President, Professor, Department of Family and Community Medicine at Meharry Medical College. And thank you so much for getting us straight on that.
Well,
and take it away.
Thank you so much. It's a real privilege for me to be here this morning. I'm in California and talking about showing up. My daughter had a mishap because her little 2-year-old had COVID about in December. And in her haste to get her daughter to the emergency room, she tripped and fell and broke her leg, her ankle. She didn't know it. We have been displaced, unhoused for about 14 months because of a storm in 22. But she came down with a broken foot to see about us. So it is within that context that we learn about showing up. And when I was 10 years old and living in rural North Carolina, where in a town of 200 people, there were lots of elders who thought that the church could do much better if they incorporated young people. And so I was 10, and they gave me the job of being secretary for the church. Can you imagine? And it's on that journey, it's on that foundation that I have built my work, my life work, in terms of showing up and reaching out. So it is my privilege on behalf of Meharry Medical College to bring greetings this morning from Dr. James E.K. Hildreth. And not only Dr. Hildreth, but the faculty, the staff, and the students. We believe that the work that Lillie is doing is incredible. And I want to tell you just a quick little story about how I came to know Lillie and now Joyce and the other daughters of the Voices of Our Fathers. I met Reuben Warren maybe 54 years ago when we were both students. He was at Meharry and I was at Fisk. And we had a common interest, always connecting us. And Dr. Warren was the dean of the School of Dentistry for quite a long time, and we would meet often. So it wasn't by happenstance, I believe, that we would have gotten to be a part of his journey and he a part of ours. Dr. Warren has been someone that has shown up. He has said to me, wherever there is a need, I will be there. I will be there. And so it was through his urging that I met Lillie and made a pledge to show up. In 1997, I was appointed by the Clinton White House through the Office of Minority Health to serve on the apology that we made, the United States made, to the atrocities that had occurred at Tuskegee through the United States Public Health Services. It was there that we began to see the restructuring of what we now say never again. And that is with the IRBs, the institutional review boards, and everything that goes around the issue of consent to participate in clinical studies. The issue that we come to face from our perspective is when you ask the question, what is our role? Our role is to, at Meharry Medical College and for the nation and for each of the individuals whose lives we touch and the Office of Strategic Initiative and Innovation, that we build connections, that we create a process by which we can not only build connections, but to partner and to call to action. Calling to action does not necessarily mean that one has to have a bullhorn always on the street, but in those quiet places where we know that those of us who are really steeped in our religion, that God will provide us with the wishes of our hearts, even when we forget them. And so it is through that quietness that we have a history at Meharry Medical College for showing up. Our role will continue to be supporting Voices of Our Fathers. We will continue to provide tangible resources if and when we can through grants and from other ways in which those things that are intangible as well as tangible. We will continue to deal with the concepts of building trust, trustworthiness, and health equity through our research, our training, and our teaching. We will also force the issue in front of everyone that we can, whether it is clinical, academic, or community. The issue of trust, trusting, and trustworthiness. As I started the story about me being 10 years old, trust was a big issue for us in that small rural town that I grew up in. But it wasn't just trust, it's trusting and being trustworthiness. As the previous speakers have spoke, the issue of showing up, having a relationship is really very important. Health equity, access, utilization, the issue of coordination, the issue of being there when someone reaches back for you becomes extremely important. So as we think about where we are, we have to fight the issues of policies that say that there are too many this and there are too many that. And the late 1800s, when Meharry Medical College was founded, 1876, there were 14 Black medical schools, mainly in the South. Think about it. If you thought about what Fletcher did in 1913, when he did a review of those 14 Black medical schools, only 2 schools were left standing, Meharry and Howard. Think about it. If we then had the power, our allies, because as you know, we were just coming out of the Civil War, Jim Crow laws, which were the law of the land. But if we were open and we were not concerned about Black and white in separation, because I was raised in a separate world, did not know that integration even occurred until I came to Fisk in 1965. So the idea of us standing up now and doing the work, the hard work, is really important. Because had we all been together at the Reconstruction, we wouldn't be talking about the issues of access. We would not be talking about the devastation, the harm, the generational trauma that we now face as we talk about what happened to 632 men or more and voices for our fathers. But multiply that times the generational harm that we face now in clinical trials, where everyone, even with COVID, invoke the issue of the Tuskegee study. They don't call it the U.S. Public Health Service study. Dr. Warren has tried to get us all on that page, and he's done an excellent job. As I close, I would like to have us think about the issue of reflection. I see Morgan McDonald on the call. She shows up. She didn't know me 4 years ago when we had our Cancer Survivorship Summit, but she knew Dr. Clayton, Linda Clayton. And she was reached out by Dr. Clayton to come to this session and actually spoke. She showed up and she didn't know us, though she has a connection. She's from North Carolina. And the issue becomes that she too was affected by cancer. We too are affected by what happened to the voices, the fathers who we're now giving tribute to. The issue is now, not only should we reflect on the love, the kindness, the compassion, the dedication, the action, but we now must focus on reconciliation, which is what Chris talked about and showed in his pictures of of the board member with Mrs. Head. As I close, I would like to say that we will continue to partner. We will continue to work towards reconciliation, and we will continue to hold up some of the words that we hear and many of the songs that are still being sung in churches. One is God is real. And the refrain to that is He's real in my soul. So that speaks to the issue of healing. And it speaks to the issue of having someone there that can help us, those of us who believe in the entities, to guide what it is that we want as we move to this amazing grace situation, as we think about the fathers that we've lost, the generations that will now know, and that we will never have this done ever again. So I thank you, and it's been my pleasure to show up this morning. It's been my pleasure to say to you that I am who I am because of the work that all of us have done. And I hope that each of us will believe that we are a part of not only the world, but we are a part of each other. And we are definitely a part of Voices for Our Fathers. Thank you so much. It's been a privilege. And thank you for inviting me, Joyce. Don't worry about the credentials. I don't use them very much. And Mrs. Head, thank you so much for the privilege of asking me. It has been a joy. And Dr. Warren, thank you for being this tremendous friend and colleague throughout these years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mathews-Juarez. This has been such an exciting and heartfelt whole session. I just reflect on what you just said, Dr. Juarez, about the history. You gave us a history lesson because I didn't know about that. I didn't know about there were 15 medical schools that were around in the 1800s, around Reconstruction time and so forth, and now there are only 2. So you gave us history and you showed up, like everyone here on this panel showed up, to give us pieces of information that we probably will never have known about. You've shared, you've given us a sermon about amazing graces. And you know, it's just wonderful to have everyone to share in this particular moment. I hope that there were more people on the line to hear these things, because partnerships truly are challenging, but the right ones together can make the world go round and around and round and round again. So I thank you again for all of that. And I thank you, each panelist, Chris Koller and Dr. David Hodge. Mr. Harvey, I love that picture of you and Lillie together. That was so, I mean, it was so spontaneous and it was just like a natural thing. So thank you for being here, and Morgan and all of those people from Milbank. I see a lot of blue backgrounds on the screen. Thank you for being here for all of us. And we're going to take a 10-minute break and come back. And I think during that time, we'll have a little bit of instrumental music. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And if hopefully the speakers from the panelists from this morning will stick around for the panelists for the second session, and then we can address those questions. Okay. All righty.
Joyce,
Yes.
before we break, we're running a little behind.
I know.
So
we'll have...
I'm wondering if the second set of panelists would like to go right into their presentation. What do you think? A thumbs up or?
Yeah, if they're willing to do that, if no one has to take a little potty break or get some water or whatever, that's fine with me. If I think we have everybody on the line, the lineup.
So what do you think, our panelists for the second session? Would you like to go right into it? Thumbs up or? Yes, you can pop in.
Oh, okay, Dwight is here.
Yeah,
He didn't have to get up too early, I hope. He's
yeah.
calling in California, so I think we have everyone here,
Oh,
correct?
okay. And Dr. Juarez left?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Doc,
There you are.
I just wanted to give you a special thank you because I did not know that you were in California. And I so sorely appreciate you showing up because I know it's early out there in California. And I wanted to also add that the foundation is working with uh, members of Dr. Juarez's department to do a case study on the United States Public Health Service syphilis study. And I don't know if that has been done before. I have never seen it or heard anyone talk about it. So this is very, very important. And I so appreciate Dr. Juarez for having us there. And to Dr. Warren for suggesting that we reach out to Dr. Juarez. So thank you so much. And your presentation was great. Chris, as always, my friend, you always deliver. So thank you so much. And you know we have a lot of work to do. And again, Dr. Hodge, thank you so very much. So now, Joyce, you can go right into the second session. And welcome to those who I have not spoken to. There's Lyric. Hello, good morning, Lyric. I see Dwight. Good morning, Dwight. And then I see
Beverly and Leo.
no, I'm looking for the other panelists there.
Oh,
Yeah, oh, I see Hilary,
Helen
and I
and
see
Ella.
Helene. So
Yeah.
they're all there. And to all of the descendants that have joined us, I wish we had more, but good morning to you all, and thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Joyce.
Okay, well, for the second session, I have a little icebreaker. We both have something to say. We both have something in common, I guess. All of the panelists that are here. You don't know what I'm going to say, and neither do you. So here we go. This time I'm going to quote two quotes from two dear people, the civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King. You don't have to see the whole stairway, just the first step, just the first step. And I think this is a first step in partnering with all of the different partners that we have today on this beautiful Zoom meeting, this annual day of healing. And then Nelson Mandela said it always seemed impossible until it's done. It always seemed impossible until it's done. So let's hear from our first panelist. We have the distinct privilege of meeting up with, let me turn this off, I have my timer on. Meeting up with Lyric, Dr. Lyric Jorgenson at the NIH in September. And it was such a pleasure. They were so wonderful to us. We had a big meeting at this big round table or big oblong table. And it was just so neat to see and hear from them as to what they had in store. They made us feel like we were royalty. So thank you, Dr. Jorgenson, for showing up here this morning, because I know you have a very busy schedule. So I will repeat the questions that I mentioned before. You're to toot your own little horn as to what your bio is. You also will have 8 to 10 minutes, and I've been putting 10 minutes. And I put a finger up when you get to the 1 minute more, okay? And tell us about your organization or agency or institution. What role will you play as a partner to Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation? And how will our partnership impact change in fostering trustworthiness and trust, health equity, and social justice? And so I will start your timer now. Dr. Jorgenson, if you will, from the National Institutes of Health. She is the Director of Science Policy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I am just delighted to join you all on this day of healing, which I hope is more than a day. I think that that's something that this partnership has really worked towards, is seeing how we can make a day turn into a lasting change and a lasting movement to really chart our path forward. As mentioned, my name is Hilary Jorgenson. I am the Associate Director for Science Policy at NIH, which means I am the lead policy advisor for the agency. And I also direct a team of amazing policy professionals that are working to integrate science and policy and ethics and really transform the way we do science as a country. So I have been delighted to have this partnership with Lillie and Joyce and this organization moving forward and thinking about how do we learn from the past, instead of burying it into something that we don't talk about or don't think about, but really uncover all of the nitty-gritty truths to really learn from those experiences, to not make mistakes of the past and really honor those who have suffered or have been harmed so that we do not repeat that moving forward. So we have been really, really honored to have this really exciting partnership where we've had honest conversations about really making the future be a more positive source of light. So I'm going to share some slides with you all. Because I am from NIH, and that is what we do here, to talk about really kind of where we've been and what we're thinking about moving forward. So I hope you can all see my slides. Correct? Excellent. All right. So again, pleased to be here today to join you all. As NIH, for those of you who aren't aware of the organization, as the National Institutes of Health, and it's really responsive to the American public through a twofold mission. First, our basic mission is to expand knowledge, to support a lot of interesting science, to really generate knowledge to improve human health. The second part of this mission includes what I and my team really focuses on, and that's thinking about how do we develop and support an entire ecosystem and policies to ensure that all of those who contribute to our research are treated with respect, kindness, fairness, and integrity, and that we ensure their preference and goals inform everything we do. One of the things you might find from NIH that is a simple change, but is really meaningful and representative of the partnerships we've had with organizations of like those here today, is that we no longer refer to people as subjects in research. In the past, people were subjects. They were experimented on and experimented with. We are moving to a new era in which we refer to participants in research, people who are partners, who have a say, who have the shared equity in what we do here. And that's really the culture we are trying to build, and why partnerships with people across the country to tell us what their preferences are, how to be respectful and inclusive and respect cultural differences is key to really supporting research that improves the health of all equitably across the nation. So again, as mentioned, my connection with Voices Our Fathers began after Lillie reached out to NIH to see if NIH had any records about the men unethically treated in the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male at Tuskegee at Bacon County. Again, this is used to be commonly referred to as the Tuskegee study, and working in partnership with Lillie and Joyce, we're working to correct the way we speak about this study to be respectful of the descendants and honor those legacies in a way that is meaningful to them. So as mentioned, Lillie and Joyce came to NIH in September of last year. This is us around, you are correct, an oblong table. And it's really sparked an important discussion of how we could work together in what I like to think of as our joint mission of promoting and advocating for the ethical treatment in healthcare and research, ending disparities in health and overcoming health injustices amongst those most in need. So now I'd like to walk you through some of the ways in which NIH, and particularly my team in science policy, is working to foster engagement, trustworthiness, and trust through health equity and social justice. I hope as I do so, you will all be thinking of how you might engage and partner with us in these efforts. Because as I mentioned, we don't do it alone. We are no longer doing this to people. We are doing this with people. And so we need this input and discussion and dialogue. So importantly, I think as you all know, there are great disparities in health across the United States. So here I'm showing data from the National Center for Health Statistics as displayed on the CDC webpage. You can say clearly that something people can have no to minimal choice in. Where you are born and where you live is perhaps the strongest indicator of many health metrics and life expectancy. You see the blue colors represent a longer life expectancy and the red colors a less lengthy life expectancy. Again, geography determines your life expectancy, which is really indicative of health disparities across the country. We also know that participation in health research is often inequitable, either because of access to health research studies, trust in science or trust in the research community, and more. This really came into focus. I think it's many people have known for a long time, but for us, in the case of testing the COVID vaccine, inequitable participation limited our ability to ensure that a therapy that was developed would be useful for all. This is key. We've learned that working with only 20 to 30-year-old healthy white men might not be an extrapolatable vaccine for the rest of the world. We need to have studies and participation that is representative of the diversity of our country. Equitable and representative participation in health research to test therapies is critical, but it can only be accomplished when there is trust, both to engage in research and of course adopt the therapies developed by research. And this is something COVID highlighted for us. Trust in the system was potentially broken, and we needed really to work to pivot to correct this. Let me be clear. These are longstanding and persistent policy challenges that stem from historical experiences that communities across the country have had with research. Again, conversations with the foundation and more really show this this trust is based in history and experience that we have to work to overcome. They are also deeply connected to each other and are related to where you are born and where you live. So for instance, I always tell people that my father lives in the rural Midwest. We are an affluent middle class to upper middle class family, and it takes hours to get to the nearest research institute where he could participate in a clinical trial, even if he had heard that one was going on and was driven to participate. I, however, live in northern Washington, D.C., and can be a dozen medical academic centers in the minute it takes me to make a phone call. Also, people trust people when it comes to their health. They trust their personal doctors the most, and we really need to empower communities to serve communities in really making healthcare equitable and just. So how does policy help? This is usually where scientists are focused, thinking about collecting and sharing data in a way that maximizes the utility of data. Science is a data enterprise, but this is the job of OSP. This is the job of my team at NIH, just to think beyond just the data and the numbers and the evidence. It's important to remember that so much of the work we do is only possible because of engagement with participants and the public in general. We think about how to protect people, their privacy, and their autonomy. We also think about how to respect and incorporate their goals and needs from research. This needs to be a bidirectional conversation from the beginning. For all of us to successfully work together, we need to prioritize access to research, a level of engagement that is meaningful to those individuals and communities participating in research, and of course, building trust along this entire pipeline. So this is the way we work, is really thinking about how policy can bring these values together to make everyone win at the end of the day. We are very strong proponents in the Office of Science Policy to think about how do we integrate bioethics, all of these lessons from the past and all of the understanding of people's different ethical values and different changing norms of how they want to be treated and respected in research all come together in a collection of bioethics research. It comes out in different forms. So words on these slides are ways to ensure that we do not limit the effectiveness of the data collected, and more importantly, that we do not act in a way that is harmful or upsetting to participants or that is out of alignment with expectations for how people participating in research should be treated. This is key. This is why you see participants at the beginning of this pipeline understanding how people want to be engaged, when they want to be engaged, how they want their information shared and protected is all key to garnering this trust. So I want to start by saying NIH recognizes that biomedical research, while working towards a shared common goal, has obviously faced its challenge. Continuing our effort to promote trust and transparency to study participants, we've worked really closely with Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation to make available documents from the U.S. Public Health Service syphilis study. Again, I think that many of you know that this study was conducted between 1932 and 1972. It was conducted without informed consent. It did not offer the treatment that was available to cure this disease once it was available. This was completely unjust and something that we will make sure never happens again. A federal panel was created in 1972 to investigate this study and again, emphasized the study was ethically unjustified and advised ending the study, and really served as the framework for the basis of our protection for the rights of research participants used to this day, in which NIH walks around with basically on a tattoo on our arm as the code of conduct for how we treat and work with research participants. As you all know, trust is earned in droplets and lost in buckets, and egregious offenses like these can really do irreparable harm. And we are so grateful to Lillie and Joyce for their willingness to reach out to us to help educate us and build that trust back. So this is what we have done, but this is not an end. We are been recently made this collection of documents from the federal panel. They've been digitized for public use and made available at the National Library of Medicine website. We're also working to recognize the men in the study and the injustice they and their families suffered. And of course, this was the impetus for the National Research Act. So we are here for this community to help to find out more about the study and to learn from you how we can be better partners to enable trust and ensure our research is useful for and applicable to all populations. We'd also like to continue engaging this group to think about the increase in public engagement in clinical research, understanding that trust is at the center of this relationship. Meaningful relationships have conversations, understanding cultural sensitivities, community sensitivities, and how do we do that as a government agency, trying to make things equal for all without setting the bar to being equally poor for everyone. We want a high bar of equality, not a low bar. So this is really the conversation we want to have with you all. So working towards that and thinking about how does NIH build voices into the conduct of clinical research, we are working to establish a unified vision for NIH engagement activities in clinical research. I'm immensely proud of the work our team has been doing with the new director to launch a group of community members across the country. It's the largest working group I've ever managed of 25 patient advocates, really thinking about what should NIH's vision for engaging public voices in the design and conduct of clinical research look like. We know it's not always feasible for researchers to focus on public engagement, and frankly, not all researchers are good at it. We need to be clear about that. So how do we do that in a way that is meaningful, respectful, and educate not only participants, but our researchers on how to do this and build their studies in a way that's respectful? The end goal of this work is to make a toolkit of options for researchers to determine optimal ways to incorporate engagement in clinical research. Get those voices in the design of the study, in the conduct of the study, and again, making sure the study findings go back to the communities that participated. So we are looking forward to this work. It is 6 months underway, and we're expecting it to be a 2-year-long process, but it's really been spearheaded by those in the community, helping educate NIH how to do this and how to do this well. Importantly, another thing that we are working on is, again, we've heard from communities that's what's meaningful to communities is getting information about their participation back in their hands to have that either for a knowledge or for action. So we're thinking about the return of research results back to participants. Many of you might know NIH does return research results to participants, and we have good frameworks predominantly for a return of genomic results. But there are way more results in research studies that are important to people. As I mentioned, where you live has the biggest impact on your life expectancy. So understanding things about your zip code, your environmental health, and more to help shape your decision-making is important. So we're working on developing a framework so that all NIH studies are thinking about how to return research results to participants in a way that is meaningful to them. We believe that this will be foundational to promoting respect for research participants, again, as partners who get something out of the research they commit their time and energy to. So I want to just, close with a few things in terms of central tenets for us. People are at the heart of our enterprise. They are dedicated members of the public who partner with researchers in hope of turning discoveries into improved health. Research studies often don't provide any benefit to research participants. They're doing it because they want to make this world a better place. This is something that we need to honor and respect and actually cherish this time and make it easier and more equitable for all. A people-centered approach really drives how we think about policy we make at the agency. As Dr. Bertolli likes to say, we are the National Institutes of Health, not the National Institutes of Research. This is something that we take very seriously here, that our job is not done when there's a publication. Our job is done when health is improved meaningfully for all people across the country. So we hope to continue to have these conversations, and this is just the start of our partnership with Foundation and others on today's call. We want to work together to promote and advocate for ethical treatment in healthcare and research, ending disparities in health and overcoming health injustices amongst those most in need. And I know we can accomplish much together. So with that, I will stop sharing and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Jorgenson, for that eye-opening and transformative slide the slide presentation that you did show. I took away from that the tools that you have in your toolbox to change things. And we look to the NIH to help us to change those things, really. There are a lot of things that are left, questions that are left unanswered about the specimens that were taken. And I know that Adam, who would have been on this, Adam Berger, would have been on this this Zoom meeting, but he's away over in doing the World Health Organization.
Yes, I believe he's physically on a plane right now. That's the only thing. Poor airline Wi-Fi is the only thing that would limit him from participating today.
Yes, so I wrote him an email and told him that we will have this available for him to see. So I'm sure he'll give a critique to you as to what job you did. So, but thank you so much for helping us to understand what NIH role and how we envision going forward with the National Institutes of Health, because this is where it all started, right there at the National Institute of Health. And so now we're going to move on to Hilary Joy Polk, a delightful little lady from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. She is, where are you, Hilary? I don't see you.
I'm here.
There you are.
Yep.
There you are. There you are. So you go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself and address those questions, and I'll put you on a timer. I know that Dr. Jorgenson went over a little bit, so that's good because we got that 10 minutes, the break out of the way. So we'll just go right on ahead, okay?
All right. Thank you, Joyce. I'm going to share my screen as well. Okay. Not as seamless as my colleague at NIH, I see. Let's see. All right. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, good. So good morning. My name is Hilary Polk, and I work for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Thank you to the board for the invitation to participate in the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation 13th Annual Day of Healing. I am thrilled to be here. For our time today, I will share a little more about my bio and then transition into how CDC and Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation arrived at our partnership, which includes pivotal themes from the CDC Remembrance Program in 2022. We'll then move to the ask from CDC to our colleagues within CDC Foundation, and then finally conclude with CDC's commitments to the Voices Today for Change Tomorrow Scholarship. Okay. So myself. First, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is the nation's leading science-based, data-driven service organization that protects the public's health and has been in existence for over 70 years. I have been in the organization for almost 20 years and have served in several capacities. My current role is Deputy Director for the Internal Communications and Engagement team. It's within the Office of Communications within the immediate office of the Director. Prior roles include Enterprise Communications Team Lead for the Injury Center and also the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Officer for the Center for Surveillance, Epidemiology, and Laboratory Services. In addition to my current roles and responsibilities, I've had senior leadership support to lead other initiatives, including our agency's HBCU, Historically Black Colleges and Universities portfolio, and inaugural external CDC HBCU communications presence. And of course, why we're here today, the Voices Today for Change Tomorrow Scholarship. Okay. So a little bit of background. All right, so on November 2022, CDC recognized the 50-year conclusion of the United States Public Health Service untreated syphilis study in the Negro male at Tuskegee and Macon County. Renowned experts in the fields of public health, ethics, history, and journalism shared their lived experiences centered on the study. I served on the CDC work group that led and managed the event and worked on basically the leadership and communications portions of the program. This was one of the agency's largest programs in history. We had over 4,100 people tuned in to a live webcast and 300 people present on CDC campus, which was at capacity. And this is a photo from the actual event. When I was asked to lead the communication for the remembrance, I was excited to do my best to ensure a thoughtful, intentional program. I had no idea how much I would learn along the way and how I would be moved toward making a commitment past the program in November. And so now I'm just going to share a couple of pivotal themes that I took away from that program. So we need to start with Mrs. Head. So at the beginning of this presentation, Mrs. Head said, "Welcome, enjoy, and be inspired." And that's exactly what happened to me during this presentation. I was inspired by all of the panelists, but especially Mrs. Head. I remember that after the program, I thought to myself, there has to be more. And so that is something that just stick with me for a while. That along with this statement. The men in this study had two requests: that they would never be forgotten and that would never happen again. This was my biggest takeaway from the presentation. So after that, I led several conversations with CDC senior leadership on what could be next. This is a picture of course, Mrs. Lillie Head and previous director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky. They were part of the, Dr. Walensky was part of the initial conversation for the Voices for Change Scholarship. And right here, I'll just outline some of the things that were presented as part of this initial commitment. So to support the Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation Scholarship Fund, to increase resources dedicated to the United States Public Health Service untreated syphilis study in the Negro male at Tuskegee, Macon County descendants, requests that the scholarship should be renewed annually, supported the CDC Director's legacy request and priorities to continue the process of retribution. Additionally, it supported the HHS Executive Order on advancing educational equity, excellence, and the equal opportunity through historically Black colleges and universities. And at this point, I have to echo some kudos from lots of presenters today, including David Hodge to Dr. Warren. He is the major reason why I was able to have a voice with the foundation and continues to serve as a mentor and a friend. So I just wanted to thank him thank you, Dr. Warren, for your brilliance and leadership. Again, you are really the reason that I am even present today. So thank you. And now I wanted to move into CDC's commitments. Let's see. I know Dr. Helene Erenberg is on, and she'll share some additional distinctions between CDC Foundation and CDC, the agency. But this is primarily what CDC has committed to. So the first thing was ensuring the accuracy of the narrative. And I appreciate what my colleague Lyric shared earlier about making sure we're calling the study exactly what it is, not the Tuskegee study, but giving ownership to the United States Public Health Service and using the word untreated within the use of the syphilis study. Those things had not been present in the 70 years that I had seen with what I've seen at the agency. So these were things that we have started to put throughout our external presence as well as within our CDC library. And the photos here are descendants from the study that recently came to visit the CDC Museum in our updated exhibit that sees about, I don't know, thousands of folks every year. So the education is not only for our internal CDC staff, but for the visitors that we get to the agency, and hopefully, again, moving the narrative to ensuring accuracy in how we're communicating about it. All right, and the commitment to the descendants. So this is a photo of Dr. Judy Monroe for the CDC Foundation, our present day CDC Director, Dr. Mandy Cohen, and of course, Mrs. Lillie Head. So during this historical night, Dr. Cohen shared her personal empathy, apology, and commitment for the journey from harm to healing. There were lots of folks, I think, on this call present for this meeting. And I think it really put a stake in where CDC wanted to say we were going to move forward and create some different expectations for our agency on how we are going to be better partners with Voices for Our Fathers. This is our official two-pager document that I'm happy to share that has been cleared throughout the agency that lists our specific commitments from CDC. Basically for the public health career pathways that sit within our Public Health Infrastructure Center, providing opportunities for the career fellowship programs, access to curated training resources, training plans, CDC Learning Connection, and trainings on public health ethics that are all housed within our agency. The second piece is to facilitate professional development, networking, and mentorship through our CDC Scholarship Mentor Program, and also access to our Epidemiologic Intelligence Service Program. And so in conclusion, I just want to thank you again for inviting CDC to the Annual Day of Healing. I look forward to CDC's promise and partnership and the commitment to making sure that the over 625 men will never be forgotten and that this will never happen again. Thank you.
That was phenomenal. Thank you, Hilary, for getting us to this point. And to follow up on yours, we have Helene Erenberg, who will give us, who is the associate, well, you were just right on time, see? Right on time, great. Let me end that right now. Okay. We have Helene Erenberg, Associate Vice President for the Advancement of the CDC Foundation. And she is going to flawlessly go from what you have talked about as showing up and what you guys have done, which we really appreciate the verbiage that you've changed at the CDC, that you're changing at the CDC to make this the correct ownership of the study, to make sure that all of that is taken care of. And that at one time we were thinking it was only 623 men, but actually it was 625 men. But in our work at NIH, Lillie and I, we saw that there were several other people that went through that study. There were thousands of people that went through that study that just kind of dropped off, and we don't know what happened to them. And that concerns me as a person of interest for our fathers and grandfathers and all of those men that are not recognized amongst the 625 names that they have listed at the CDC in the National Archives, which were there in February to look at some of those records. So Helene, you just take it away, toot your own little horn, and go from there.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you. No pressure that, it seems like there's a lot of expectations. I hope I can live up to them. As Joyce said, my name is Helene Erenberg, and it is my pleasure to be with you here today representing the CDC Foundation. And I also send greetings from our president and CEO, Dr. Judy Monroe, who is traveling and is unable to be with us for this discussion. So I currently serve as the Associate Vice President for Advancement at the Foundation, which means that I work to raise funds in support of our life-changing work. I've been at the Foundation for about 7 years, and I started as the primary fundraiser overseeing the infectious disease portfolio with CDC, and then moved into fundraising for emergency response during COVID in 2020, and then was tapped to lead a new individual giving and special projects fundraising unit in 2021. And we like to say at CDC Foundation, if there's no money, there's no mission. So we do take that role very seriously. I first connected with Lillie in June of 2023 through Hilary. And I can't really explain it, but I immediately felt a kinship with her, like I'd known her my whole life. And I just felt certain that we were destined to work together to build trust and trustworthiness. I'm going to share my screen as well. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. Everybody can see that? Excellent. Thank you. So I thought I'd explain a little bit about the CDC Foundation and what we do, because we're often confused with CDC, but we're actually a completely separate entity. So the CDC Foundation helps the CDC save and improve more lives by unleashing the power of collaboration between CDC, individuals, philanthropies, and private entities to protect the health, safety, and security of America and the world. We believe that people, groups, and organizations have much greater positive impact and can accomplish much more by working together. And so by aligning diverse interests and resources and leveraging all parties' strengths, our collaborations can help create greater impact than any one entity can alone. We are an independent nonprofit 501c3 created by Congress in 1992 with operations beginning in 1995 to mobilize philanthropy and private sector resources in support of CDC and public health. The foundation supports all work in public health that encompasses the breadth and depth of CDC. But together with our board of directors, the CDC Foundation recently has identified 6 strategies for impact to help guide our work in support of CDC and public health at large. 1, strengthen the public health system to protect us all, and this includes workforce development for public health, addressing climate and health. So this includes looking at the impacts of heat and our changing climate on everyone's health, integrating health equity principles into all of our work, modernizing public health protection data, promoting and protecting the public's health through communications, and fortifying global health security to protect us all from health threats. These priorities are all interconnected and intertwined in all of our programs. In the past 28 years, we've launched more than 1,200 programs and raised over $2 billion through engagement with philanthropies, corporations, organizations, governments, and individuals. This is all entirely through our donors. We are not an endowed foundation. And so with our donors' help, our work with partners and CDC has saved and improved millions of lives in the US and around the world. Now I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation and others who are on this call. The CDC Foundation shares a deep commitment to honor the legacy of the Black men who were denied treatment under the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis. This horrific study represents one of the most well-known and large-scale medical ethics violations in US history, profoundly impacted the men in the study between 1932 and 1972, along with their families and their communities. In February of this year, the CDC Foundation announced the creation of the Voices Today for Change Tomorrow Endowed Scholarship Fund. This fund will provide scholarships for descendants of the 625 men unethically treated and unwittingly a part of the study. And on February 20th, the board members of the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation gathered in Atlanta, along with the board of directors of the CDC Foundation and representatives from the Milbank Memorial Fund and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and Dr. Mandy Cohn and others from CDC to announce and formally celebrate this partnership. The foundation is working to raise a $5 million endowment to provide funding to increase the current Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation scholarships. This effort builds on the 50th anniversary that Hilary was talking about that occurred at CDC in 2022. And it's an important reminder of the atrocities the men and their families suffered, as well as a guidepost to ensure that this injustice is never repeated. Once fully funded, the endowment will provide $100,000 in merit scholarships annually to the study's descendants and also provide administrative support as needed for the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation. We are incredibly grateful for our partnership with Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation, and especially to Mrs. Lillie Head for their tireless efforts to honor the memory of the men in the study, as well as their lives, while working to ensure this never happens again. I also want to thank our friends and partners at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for their $1 million lead gift to this effort. And I want to acknowledge the Milbank Memorial Fund under the leadership of Chris Koller for their commitment to work with us all as we build and ensure impact for this many years to come. And so with the creation of this endowed scholarship fund, the CDC Foundation is making an intentional commitment to invest in the next generation so that they can lead the way to a healthier, more equitable future. And at this time, I want to share a special sneak peek at a short video produced by the CDC Foundation that provides some additional information about the scholarship program. You're seeing it here first. It might be released in the next week or two on the CDC Foundation website, but I thought. Okay. Can everybody see like this? blank screen? You have to say yes, because I can't see you guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Here we go. I'm going to turn the volume up, so hopefully you can hear it. I know Zoom video sometimes is not so great. And here we go.
Perfect.
With the Voices Today for Changes Tomorrow Scholarship Endowment, we are and we will build trustworthiness and trust.
The CDC Foundation is bringing partners together and making a commitment to honor the legacy of the men who were part of the U.S. Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis at Tuskegee and Macon County, Alabama, one of the most well-known and large-scale medical ethics violations in U.S. history. We believe, along with the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation and our other partners supporting this work, that merit-based educational scholarships for the descendants of the men in the study are an important way to honor those men and their families.
There's a lot that I would like people to know about the men who were in this study. And the most important thing I would like for people to know is that they were loving human beings. They were humans, but they were not treated as human. They were used as guinea pigs. They were never told that they had syphilis, only that they had bad blood. Imagine that.
The Milbank Memorial Fund actually goes back to the early 1900s. From 1934 until the study's conclusion in 1972, the fund was a participant and a funder of the most infamous violation of human rights, certainly in public health science in the US and maybe in medical care. And I hope that our partnership with Voices, it certainly doesn't absolve us of anything, but it gives me hope, and I hope it gives others hope that we don't have to be stuck.
We care about what happened. We care that it never happens again.
One of our major goals is for the public health system to be more equitable and accountable to marginalized communities. We believe that the work of this scholarship fund is a great example of how we're moving forward to repair the harm that was done through investing in the education of the descendants of the people who participated in the study.
All of us, individuals, philanthropies, and businesses can all make a contribution, large or small, to this scholarship program and build a stronger future for these individuals, our communities, and our society as a whole.
History is something that you look at, acknowledge, examine, and learn to be able to move forward and to heal. And I think when everyone is educated and have the compassion and want to care for another human being, it makes everybody's life better.
And there you go. I think that video kind of says it all, so you don't need me to say anything else. Thank you.
That was beautiful. I got a sneak preview of that. Lillie shared that with me, and I thought it was so great. It says so much, and it shows what a partnership it is going to be with you guys from the CDC Foundation and moving forward with all of our other partners. And last but not least, we have Dwight Bonds, who is probably, I guess, maybe the third partner that came on board after we started, Lillie. Dwight is out in California, and he is the executive director for the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. And we're all about education, and Dwight is all about education. So Dwight, you just take it away and educate us on what you did for us. out in California and what you're still doing for us. Thank you, Dwight, for being here and getting up early as well.
Thank you, Joyce. It's a true privilege and honor to be here and be a part of the Voice of Our Father Legacy Foundation. I must say, I begin with CASA, the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. We're an organization where we currently have over 40 Black superintendents in California, which is really a pretty large number if you look at the data on African American leadership and education. And I think a lot of this comes to by having meaningful partnership, such as Voice of Our Fathers. We also we partner with over 12 statewide organizations, from the California Department of Education, California School Boards Association, California PTA, Technology Association. It goes on and on. And we found the meaning and value of partnerships, that it's more impactful, and it has helped us to, I think, deliver some powerful statements and powerful programs as a result of working together. So we started our partnership in, I think it was 2014, when we had the 60th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. So since then, we have began this year. And so we've been growing as an organization, and have been very engaged and involved in activities and programs and grants and other operations. In 2020, when the pandemic came, of course, when schools were shut down, and you were hearing about the high number of deaths of African American people in this country, and California was no exception. And so finally in 2021, or really in December 2020, when the vaccine was approved and was out for distribution, we began a kind of campaign of encouraging vaccination. We know that the children that had died from the virus, the families that were still suffering with it, and the impact it had on learning, the impact it had on our families and friends and our overall communities. And so I was on a phone call, and it was with a group, and they were sharing with me, many people are afraid to get vaccinated because of what happened to the men in this here study. And so, not being fully knowledgeable, I happened that night to watch TV, and I saw where the Voice of Our Father Foundation were speaking. And so I immediately found Lillie and called her up and told her this challenge we're having when it comes to vaccine hesitancy here in California. And I actually was usually willing to come to an event where we were having and share with us about the foundation and the truth and the historical facts about the study. And Lillie agreed, and she and her husband flew out to California. And so I think that this was in August or September of 2021. And it was so impactful, so powerful. The media came out, the local channels came out. We had a huge gathering of people, educators and family members and community members that learned so much, and it was in many papers afterwards. And so as a result of this sphere, we began to start moving towards what was called, what is an equitable approach in aligning education and health for the success of African Americans, our students, and those African American students, also other students of color. And so the Voice of Our Father Foundation became a great part of this here new challenge that we were taking on. I will say there was some pushback. People say, why are you dealing with health when education are our biggest challenges? But by showing the alignment of health and showing the issue of what happened as a result of the work of the Voice of Our Father, and getting out the facts and then the truth of the U.S. study on syphilis, information is power. We found by using this here power to go around and share this information, but it couldn't be our voice, it had to be the voice of the foundation. So Lillie and Joyce and husbands and family came out, and they got on the road with CASA and began to share information about the study from cities in San Bernardino, all over Los Angeles, to the middle of the state, Bakersfield, to Sacramento, and beyond. And it was always at awe the information, or amazed about what had truly happened, what the numbers were. But it was also linked to this thing. However, I think Lillie would say it best, that my father didn't have a chance of getting medication that's treated. But right now, with what's going on in our country right now, I mean, you have that opportunity. There is medication for you. And that encouragement was the eye opener for many people and gave us all a real enthusiasm as a nonprofit organization to see what can we do to encourage vaccination and also to get the word out about the safety of it. So the foundation has been a groundbreaking organization for us in this struggle. And I think everyone knows about the challenge that we were having there. So one of the things that really happened, we even changed. We had a conference, and we called it here. We called it here an equal approach to aligning education and health for the success of African Americans and other students of color. And in that, Lillie was there with our state superintendent of public instruction. Many state leaders were there to discuss this there. From there, we also went to different school sites and different county of education to encourage them to look at the study and not point to it only as to the negative of the results, but the power that brings us today to look at how we combat and how we reach out and how we seize and take advantage of opportunities of health medication and other resources. So this has been some of the work that we've been doing. We have created, as a result of work for our fathers, we have a handbook that was done for youth, encouraging youth. We have brought youth up to Santa Cruz County Office of Education there and the university. And these were members of the California Black Student Unions. And we brought in their leadership and also help to look at the issue and the truth behind the study and to encourage vaccine hesitance among their peers. We also put out a full book here on vaccine hesitancy that actually on the back of it was written by Dr. Ken Weston and Lillie, very, very instrumental in its creation. And so this here has been shared not just here, but also across the country. So as people take a look at the study, they're seeing the information and the focus on the study by many organizations is helping to I think to find trust. I think that's what I'm looking for. Trust in the fact that, I said people were afraid of the vaccines that came out. And so, I think with the foundations search for trust, the foundation based on trust, and then in the collaboration of CDC and all the organizations that are involved in Milbank, et cetera, I think it's been a lot of power by being able to acknowledge what happened, but also you take what happened and use it for what's needed today. And so we are really excited again about our partnership with the foundation. We have been, we were fortunate to be there for the apology. It was a year and a half ago, and to be a part of that was a true blessing. Get to also to meet some of the other descendants was really wonderful. And it's hard to take this back to share verbally. So to have more materials like this here, not just of the information regarding the pandemic and the trust in the vaccine, but also of this rich history that the Voice of Our Father is bringing to us. And rich in the sense of this important history and the background that's needed for us to look at our history and learn from it. So right now we are currently still partnering with the foundation. we feel very blessed to be at the table, and we're always looking at new opportunities. We are currently working on the 70th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. And so in that there, that decision was not very positive for the results of educating African American students. So again, the link also of health is also will come out this year also. So we're looking forward again to opportunities of partnering and working. And so wherever I get a phone call or a text or email from Joyce and Lillie, I'm here. I'm honored to be a part of this here. And we'll be grateful to be a part of this here Day of Healing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. So much of people showing up and showing out today. And we just thank all of our partners for that. And I would be remiss in saying that it always seems impossible until it's done by Nelson Mandela, who did some impossible things that became really true entities. I mean, he suffered a lot in prison, and then he came out of prison, and then he changed things. And we are the change. All the people on this group right here are the change. And we can do big things in small ways, just one step at a time. So I would be remiss because Mr. Robert Harvey asked if he could get 1 or 2 minutes to talk, and I'm going to let him do that. And then there was a question in the chat from Ashanti to Dr. Jorgenson about, and I'll read that to you all after Mr. Harvey speaks. Go ahead, Mr. Harvey. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. This is slightly out of order in terms of the presentations today. Dr. Hodge said something in specific with regard to Booker T. Washington and how he inspired him. And I think there's a sort of a circle here in that I found, so my great-great-grandmother, Elizabeth Milbank Anderson, 1850 to 1921, whose money endowed the Milbank Memorial Fund, which of course became an unfortunate partner with CDC, the U.S. Public Health Service in the study. I'm just reading from a book about Robert Taylor, the architect or an architect at Tuskegee University, where the author writes, Booker T. Washington, quote, he remembered that he'd been exhausted and on the border of discouragement at the end of a long day of fundraising in 1909 when he called on Elizabeth Milbank Anderson at her New York home. He found a warm welcome. Mrs. Anderson promised funds for a building named for her father, which would be known as the Mechanical Building, to house industries, brick masonry, plastering, tile setting, plumbing, mechanical drawing, electrical work, machine work, and foundry. Eventually, they settled on an agricultural building with laboratories, offices, and classrooms. And as we know now, this is where George Washington Carver did his experiments on peanuts to help find a crop that would be less detrimental to soil in Alabama than cotton. This started out so well, as a partnership. And she died in 1921. Her cousin unfortunately went off in a different direction. And one of the things I feel I learned here, Joyce and Lillie, privilege can be its own disease. You had a small group, in this particular case, maybe overeducated white men with high privilege, and they're the ones who made the decision to support the study, which Susan Reverby, the historian, has said there's reason to believe that without Milbank's participation, the study would have closed down in 1934. So this journey started out with good intentions and went horribly, horribly wrong. And I'm so sorry about the decisions that Milbank made in the 1930s. And will forever be in the debt of Lillie and Voices for being willing to accept the apology of the current leadership of the fund, a fund that has been changed, the board, dramatic changes that Chris talked about earlier. And I just want to say that it's this journey for me has been one of the privileges of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for those words. I'm gonna bounce that back to Miss Lillie Head for rebuttal. To thank you personally for being here this morning. I know Chris had said that you were going to be on the call, and I didn't know if you were going to be speaking as well. And you showed up and you showed us the love. Let me turn this off. You showed us the love from your family. And it's very hard to bare your soul to others, to ask for forgiveness, to say you're sorry for something that, of course, it was other people that played in that role of giving the money. You weren't there, but you're accepting the responsibility of that. And that says a lot about Milbank Memorial Fund. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about all of the people that were willing to just to bare their souls and ask for forgiveness. And we forgive you because we need to move on. This is not something that we need to stay stuck on in the past. And I think Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation, which was founded in 2014 by my sister Lillie and some other great women and men, that few that thought of this to become a foundation, has flourished and has given our fathers, my father, a voice, which he had asked for, to never to let this happen again. So, we're all here as partners. We're all here as human beings because we recognize that we need each other to survive in this world. There's so much now going on in the world that you just kind of have to stop and think about all the injustices that are being done, all of the hurts that are being placed on different people of races, different factions of people. And you just say, wow, we can do something about this. We can change the narrative. We can go on and become one people. We can help each other, pull each other up by our bootstrings, and just change how health is driven in this country, which is my thing about health. How social things that are injustice to people are being treated. There are so many things that we could help each other. And I think today we've shown that in earnest. And if Lillie has anything else to say, I could go on and on. Lillie, do you have anything else to say? And I'm going to ask Ashanti's question just to make sure that I know that Dr. Jorgenson answered something in the chat, but I'm just going to ask the question. It said, what policies can be implemented to ensure the individuals who participated in research can receive treatment if proven to be effective? And so I don't know if Dr. Jorgenson, if you want to just share your response with Ashanti or not.
Yeah.
If you please.
Challenge that we're facing.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
I'm so sorry. Let me see if this helps. Is this clearer?
It's a little bit, but it's kind of choppy. So I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, is this a little bit better?
No, it's still kind of fuzzy. I don't know.
Should I edit everything in my computer? Does that work?
Well, it's a little bit better. You go ahead and start talking and we'll
I am so sorry, folks. Ashanti raises a really excellent question, just in general. There's a lot of work going on by participants in this country to help develop new products, participations, whether it be in NIH-funded trials or pharma trials, and then how people can access them. And that is a real struggle. And I think Ashanti's question is about policies around how we can promote access. This is something we at NIH have been exploring very heavily. Secretary Sarah, the Health and Human Services lead, has been really making this a priority and thinking about access broadly, not just in terms of affordability. Of course, if we're developing treatments that require cold storage and people don't have access to cold storage therapies, how do we actually make them deliverable to patients? So in real time now. Again, NIH is a research agency, so we don't set drug prices, but we certainly bring participants to bear with research. So last summer we had a workshop bringing together the pharmaceutical industry, participants, and more to think about where does NIH have a role in bringing products to patients, and I can share that link in the chat. And then we're working with the whole of government. We're working with the Biden administration, even with the Department of Commerce, to think about what are the levers the government has to make products affordable. So this is an active conversation. It's a really big problem, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for answering that question.
If you don't, sorry, Joyce, if you don't mind me jumping in, I know it was a little challenging to hear Lyric. I did try and capture most of what she said, and so I'm just going to paste that in the chat in case it's helpful to anyone.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lydia. Because it was a little bit choppy, but I think we got the gist of what Lyric said. All righty, Lillie, do you have any comments?
I would just like to say, because we're running over, we're beyond our timeline of 11, but it was so worth it to go over. And I appreciate all of you for staying with us, and all of the panelists and our partners. You elevated my heart rate as you were speaking and gave me so much hope and inspiration. And I am so looking forward to our continued work together, because I believe that we are in a space now that is so much needed, and it is not about us, but it's about the care of human beings. So thank you all so very much. You did an inspirational, I was inspired. So I hope some of you were also inspired too. And Mr. Robert Harvey, thank you for sharing. And as far as my feelings are, I'm going to allow the picture that Chris shared to tell my story, and how comfortable I was with you, how much I appreciate you, and how much I saw on your face, and the hug that was given told the whole story about our relationship. So with that being said, I'd like to again thank everybody. I'd like to thank our board members who have always been there. Since I've been president since 2014, looking for a successor, but they have been wonderful. They're working tireless, and we are making a difference. Dr. Hodge, thank you. I look forward to the Public Health Ethics Intensive for this week. And some of you, I sent the commemoration flyer the public health intensive, you can use that same link to listen to some more inspiring speakers. And then on Friday, we have the apology, the National Apology Commemoration that will be held on Friday, and we will announce our 2024 scholarship recipients, and our keynote speaker will be Dr. Jacqueline Brooks, former superintendent of Macon County School System, and she's also a descendant. So I think our fathers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, and neighbors are speaking from the grave through our voices. Thank you all so much again for everything. And if any of you would like to have a copy of this recording, let me know if you want to share it with others. So let me know, and I will make sure that you get a copy. So I'm going to call the names of our participants in my thank you. And first is Dr. Hodge, Christopher Koller, Praticia Mathews-Juarez, Hilary Jorgenson, Hilary Polk, Helene Erenberg, and Dwight Bonds. Thank you, thank you, thank you.